So, after a few months of playing the latest installment in the enduring Tekken franchise, I'm finally ready to give this review. Unlike all these other people who post a game review just 2 minutes after playing it, and some people are so desperate for attention, they even post a review before a game is officially released. God of War 3. As I solemnly insert the Tekken 6 disc inside the slim PS3, waiting for it to load, I reflect back over 2 years since Tekken 6 was first announced. Finally, after all the hype, previews, the E3s, build-ups, and anticipation, I can't help but wonder what forestalled game I'll be playing 2 years from now. The intro begins, and for the first time ever, it finally occurs to me that I finally have this game. I mean, I really own it. As the CGI cinematics flash scenes of soldiers, artillery, and Jin Kazama himself, my distant reflection turned to childish excitement. Now, the new characters were promoted and heavily shown, much like Raven, Asuka, and Feng Wei were in Tekken 5. The menu screen is simple but fresh. An avatar fighter and stage background can be chosen, similar to a computer desktop wallpaper. The Lars default was quickly changed to my all-time favorite, Craig Marduk, and Azaszi's final stage. A nice aesthetic feature, but the effect in music may wear out after a while. The 2-year-old arcade mode is virtually unchanged. Some of the stage designs look gorgeous and eye-catching. My favorites are Hidden Retreat, an alpine-style field with flocks of sheep, grass, and picturesque mountains in the background. Initially, I thought this was New Zealand until I heard the uber-cool yodeling music. Maybe they yodeled in New Zealand too. The design reminds me of Tekken 5's Penguin stage mixed with Dark Ressurection's Daylight Wilderness. Another decent stage is an urban plaza with spewing fountains and techno-charged pumping music. There's a level like it in the decade-old Tekken Tag Tournament without the water fountains. Unfortunately, some of the stages also felt lazy and outdated. There's a drab cemetery that would have been cool if it weren't so muddy looking. A thorny jungle stage with shallow water felt too similar to the Australian jungle stage in Tekken 4, and the music sounds like a ripoff of Dark Ressurection's Estrada de Estrella, which was the nighttime waterfall stage. The more I play, it's noticeable how minimal and generic most of the music is. It's as if Namco decided to use leftover B-sides that weren't good enough to be in Tekken 5. Most of them just don't stand out compared to the musical masterpiece of Tekken 5 Dark Ressurection. So I size up the new characters, and honestly, I wasn't impressed with the ones introduced 2 years ago. Leo is a guy-looking chick, Bob is a fat ass, and Zafina is another boring, fan-servicing female. However, Bob's gameplay is fairly user-friendly, and his combos are unique. He might be my favorite out of the 3, but there's a couple more new additions. Lars is a blonde rebel, leader somehow connected to the Mishimas. And Allison is a female robot who can fly. She reminds me of a sci-fi anime character, like she would appear in Deers or Chobits. She'd fit right in. You'll become very familiar with her in campaign mode. This is where Namco spent most of their time producing the past 2 years, although it may not look like it. This generation's version of Tekken Force, the campaign mode is an action-style beat-em-up where the majority of Tekken 6's storyline is unraveled. You play as Lars initially, but soon able to select other characters you've unlocked in the process. You fight the rest of the roster, usually as stage bosses, and once beaten, they are selectable in campaign mode. The stages themselves are straightforward, linear paths where repetitive faceless goons hinder your way. The graphics here look the weakest, unfortunately, and feel last generation. Surely the PlayStation 3 is capable of much more impressive and detailed backgrounds, instead of boring and repetitive box crates, enemies, invisible walls, and recycled architecture. I mean, a linear dirt road feels no different than a linear urban side street. The music is also disappointing. Just redundant stage themes from the actual arcade one-on-one fighting modes. At the very least, this is not the piss-poor Devil Within from Tekken 5. The gameplay is much closer to Tekken 4's Tekken Force, and while it's nothing new, I'm glad Namco chose the more enjoyable mode to base their campaign mode upon. The open world map has Soul Calibur's influence, different stage selections branching out depending on which you've beaten. Overall, I managed to finish campaign mode in less than 6 hours, but if you want to make as much fight money as possible, you'll spend a lot of time replaying these stages. Fight money is important for those who like to customize their fighters. Much like Tekken 5, the items are dreadfully expensive, and obtaining a new outfit can eat up your time. There's a bunch of new clothes, hairstyles, pieces of garments to choose from, but some items are also unlockable in campaign mode as treasure chests. They're free, but you'll have to play the stages thoroughly. Some of these items have special effects when equipped, such as increasing item drop rates of enemies, boosting attack or health, or simply giving you more fight money. For the record, my favorite campaign mode character is Steve Fox, because his ground sweeping punch, which can be used by holding down and backwards and triangle, is very useful against swarms of enemies. It also keeps a boss down and grounded. Ghost mode is essentially arcade mode from Tekken 5. You fight CPU-controlled customized enemies. It gives the illusion that you're fighting a human opponent who has a record and customized appearance with varying ranks and difficulties. Thankfully, the computer is better at stringing combos, especially bound attacks, a new feature which lets you hit an enemy that bounces off the ground. In contrast, the classic juggles can only be continued while the enemy is in the air. Even the final boss, Azaszi, is fairly difficult from previous bosses. He's got True Ogre's size and freakish design, and a similar stage level, Jinpachi's crystalline coloring, and a laser beam similar to the Devil's. Another supernatural, nonsensical boss? Perhaps. But there is a purpose for him according to the storyline. Now, following the example of Dark Ressurection, Tekken 6 is also playable online, the only second Tekken game to do so. This feature should have been available 5 years ago on the PS2, but it's never too late. Players can even trade ghosts and fight replays, so you can study how others approach battle. Last but not least, your records are kept depending on how many times you lost, won, and how much money you've earned. It may not seem like a big deal, but after 4 years of playing Tekken 5, I can't help but wonder how many fights I've had or how much money I've made. This record-keeping feature gives you a sense of experience and accomplishment. When Tekken 6 was reviewed by Scott Jones and Victor Lucas on my usually trusted reviews on the run, it got less than favorable scores. Both are longtime Tekken fans, and my heart sank when Scott gave it an abysmal 6 out of 10. Vic was more forgiving with 7.5, but both were clear in their disappointment. I was shocked to see such depressing scores. Scott stressed how unbearable and long the loading times were, and he stated that I don't want to wait 40 seconds before fighting the boss. While other game reviewers, websites, and magazines gave Tekken 6 stronger scores ranging from 8.1 to 8.5, Scott and Vic's review gave me the most doubt about Tekken 6. For a while, I contemplated whether or not to even try or buy the game, because here you have two long-term Tekken fans that were clearly disappointed. But I gave Tekken 6 the benefit of the doubt, and here's my final thought. The loading times are not that bad. I've played countless games with seriously brutal loading times, and Tekken 6 is not one of them. The SmackDown vs. Raw series, Killzone, Grand Theft Auto games have worse and longer loading times. I'm not surprised with the way this game turned out. That's not to say that I'm not underwhelmed in some areas, but if you look at history, the best Tekken games come later in a console's lifespan instead of early. Look at Tekken 3 on the original PlayStation, or Tekken 5 on the PlayStation 2. As Namco improved their technology and experience with the system's capabilities, the better games they can produce. Tekken 6 is the Tekken 4 of this generation. It's not the perfect, new, revolutionary, revamped Tekken game, but it's no slouch either. It's the same Tekken game we've been playing for almost 10 years. A familiar friend that chose to play it safe.